You're listening to the Hey Sis podcast. This is a space for millennial women to breathe and then go out into the world and lead. Now, here's your host, Dr. D. Evans.
Thank you for listening to the Hey Sis podcast. This is Dee. I'm the host, and I'm so glad that you want to be a part of this digital virtual community called Hey Sis. Today, we're going to be talking about creating sacred spaces. I believe in the sacred space because I understand the importance of having somewhere where I can gather my thoughts and meet with the Lord. I think that my car is somewhat of a sacred space, especially when I was living with a roommate. In any time in my life where I had a roommate in undergrad and my adult life, my car was such a space that it was sacred to me because it was mine. And right now, my room is my sacred space. It's the space where I don't complain. I don't have certain conversations on the phone. It is the space where God and I can connect in such a way where I don't have to strive. And I know that all of you ladies can connect with the moment you wake up and you connect with the outside world, whether it be through a bill you have to pay on auto pay or whether it's just a quick swipe on Instagram. There's so much you have to do. I mean, I think that our life is so packed with auto pay, bills, hair, nails, TV shows, meetings, Zooms, that we forget the importance of having a sacred space. And I believe heavily in it, even to the extent where I've made some people mad because I don't think people like to respect others' boundaries, but I don't care. I'm going to have my sacred space. And I did an internet search recently, just looking at other sacred spaces or sacred spaces that people deem as sacred. And the list is like full of art museums and libraries and colleges. I do think that Regent University is a sacred space. I don't care what you say, but Regent University has the Lord just smeared all over it. Concerts, sport venues, childhood homes are sacred spaces for people, national parks, forests. I can never think of a forest being a sacred space because when I think forest, I think Blair Witch Project. Okay, blame the nightmares on me, all right? But beyond these spaces that you have to travel to get to, like, a hiking trail or a library, I do want to encourage you in this episode to create a space in your home, in your car, at your office, where it is the space where you and God connect. Again, like I said, in undergrad, when I had roommates, even in my adult life, my room has always been my sacred space. Even to the extent I could tell when someone tried to invade my boundary of my sacred space. I don't know why people are fascinated with poking other people's boundaries, but it happens. But I could always smell when someone had been in my room. Because my room is so saturated in prayer. My room is so saturated in fellowship with the Lord. I can tell when something else has entered it and that it has not been granted permission. What do I mean by that? My room is a space where I don't talk about work that much. My room is a space where I don't grieve about what I have to pay, what I have to do, worries. No, I have other rooms in my house for that. I have an office to talk about that in. I have a living room. I have a sitting area. I have a porch. I have a den. I have whatever you have. Those are the places where I discuss all that. But my room, that is a sacred space. I encourage you to make a space in your home where no negativity is allowed, where no foolishness is allowed, where no gossip is allowed, where no worry is allowed. It's the space where you run to when you just want to be yourself. Again, when you walk into work, somebody's looking for you to do a job. Somebody's looking for you to send an email. Do this, do that. Mommy, can I have this? Honey, can I have that? Let me plug this up. Let me turn this down. You're always pulled in thousands of different directions. But in the sacred space, you don't need to be anybody else but yourself. And in that space, you are enough. In the same magnitude that the fish and the 5 loaves are enough, right? Sacred spaces are so important to your life, to your prosperity, to your healing, to your becoming. Because number one, it teaches you discipline, but it also instills in you the holiness of territory, the holiness of having a space where you and God connect and no one else is allowed. The moment I knew sacred spaces were very important, I remember distinctly telling someone, hey, I know I'm here to preach, so someone had come out of town with me. And I said, great, I have a room by myself. I stayed in like a basic hotel room at the Hilton. And there are people that came with me. And I said, cool, so I just want my room to be a sacred space. I don't want to have a gathering in here. If you girls want to, have fun and, the night before, that's cool. But my room isn't for that. They all looked crazy at me. Like I had just cussed everybody out. Well, we want to come in here. No, this is my sacred space. This is a space where I meet with God. You can gather in your room, but in this room, it's only going to be holiness and me and the Lord. And I think that my response to their desire was repulsive in a sense. And why am I mentioning that? When you start mentioning your boundaries, it reminds people of how they don't have one. And in some instances, it may anger them because a lot of individuals thrive on being able to take over people's boundaries. They like not having limits. You're my friend. Why can't I just walk in every room of your house? I'm your friend. Why can't I ask you these questions? No. Every friendship, even in marriage, you have boundaries. There are things I'm not going to allow you to say. And if you do say them to me, if you do these things to me, then there's a consequence, and that consequence may bring about separation. People don't like to have rules. People want to feel like they can say what they want to say to you, infiltrate your space, and your sacred space reminds you that you have the choice to say no. Every time I enter into that place of prayer with the Lord, He reminds me, D, you can create your atmosphere. You can say no. You can say yes. You can ask for expansion. You can ask for dominion. Don't feel bad about wanting to create a space that's conducive for you to be happy, for you to be full of joy, for you to feel more at peace with your purpose. And that can be repulsive to individuals who do not have boundaries. And guess what? That's not your issue. So I do want to ask you this question while you're thinking, while you're listening. What are the places in your soul that restore your well-being? Where is the place that you run to? Not just church, but where is the place that you run to feel restored? If you don't have a place, you need to create one. My car is most definitely my sacred space because it's mine. It's my car. That's why I don't allow people to drive my vehicle. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a sacred space for me. When I was living with a roommate, I had to share everything. I felt like every room in this house was shared space, everything but my room, but my car wasn't shared. My car was the place I owned. It was mine. And I knew when I went in my car, God and I could have a conversation. I love taking a long walk around the park. Well, not a long walk, a long drive around the park after dark. Thank you, Jill Scott. I changed all the lyrics. But I love taking drives with God in the car. It was a sacred space, and it still is. But I've changed that sacred space now to be more conducive to my mobility, right? So you have permission to change your sacred spaces as you need to. But again, let's go back to the question. Where are the places where your soul is watered? Where are the places where your well-being is restored? Is it your car? Is it your bedroom? Is it your closet? Is it your den? How do you make time to visit those spaces? How many times do you need to visit those spaces? When I was coming out of a very bad season of my life, my room was the space where I just let it all out. And it was a specific place in my room too, where I went and cried like a kid in the corner. And it was like the crying corner for me. It was a space where I let it out. I said what I had to say. I didn't care if it was cussing. I didn't care if it was hollering. I was going to get it all out. It was a specific corner in my room that I did all of that in. It eventually evolved to a spot on my floor. I laid in the same spot and had a temper tantrum. And I know you're like, Dee, that's a sacred space. Well, yes, to me, it was a space where I didn't care about being judged. If Gabriel and Michael were looking at me, it just is what it is. But it was a space where I could connect with God and be all of myself. I didn't have to worry about having to raise my hands like I'm in church because people want to see you praise God. I'm a leader. The people have to see you worship. No, it was a space where I could be a daughter, where I could be just a daughter of God that's going through hormonal changes, that is going through life, that is confused, that is angry, that is happy, that is sad, that has questions. I gave myself permission that in that space I wanted to be that. Why? Because in other areas of my life, I have to be the one that speaks life. I have to be the leader. I have to be the voice of wisdom. I have to be respectful. I have to hear. I have to listen. Because that's who I am. That's part of my purpose in the earth. I understand that fully, right? But in my sacred space, I take off those responsibilities of daughter, of sister, of best friend, of mentor, of auntie. And I'm just me. And let me tell you something. In those sacred spaces, when you really hear what you be saying out loud to the Lord, you realize you really got some issues. Okay. I mean, I remember one time hollering in my room and I literally screamed to the top of my lungs. And I said, God, you are not good to me. And I heard myself say it. And myself said, huh? Did you just say that God isn't good to you? But in that moment, when I wasn't trying to worship, you feel me? When I wasn't trying to make sure that the people were engaging in worship. When I wasn't trying to make sure it was melodic. When I wasn't trying to make sure that I didn't appear too crazy because people were watching me. When I wasn't trying to be on beat. When I wasn't trying to be on key with worship. When I wasn't trying to be a leader. The truth came out of my mouth. And in that sacred space, the truth was I felt like God was not good to me. And I had to sit in that. And I had to unpack it. And it was painful because that was my reality in that season. I felt like God was good to everybody else because I had seen it. I had prophesied it to people. I had celebrated people's promotions. I've seen them do this, seen them do that. I have no envy, no jealousy in my heart. I just didn't understand why he wasn't good to me. I want everything everybody else has for them. Like, I want you to be happy with your job and promotion because that's God gave it to you. I want you to have everything God intended for you. But my complaint to the Lord was, why can't I have what you said? To me specifically. Why even say it if you weren't going to give it to me? Isn't that called lying? I get all of these questions in the sacred space. And within about a 6-month time period, and that's how long it took me to gather myself, I realized, D, as embarrassing as I feel like that question is to even say, is God good to you? I felt that's embarrassing to say. But I needed to ask myself that question in quietness because I needed to hear myself respond back. I needed to hear myself answer my lamentation of, God, you are not good to me. And my response to that was, do taste and see that the Lord is good. I had to make myself hope in the sacred space. And that is not easy when you don't have a lot to hope for. And there are plenty of you ladies that are facing some trials. You're facing some stuff. You're facing some deadlines. You're facing some court cases. You're facing some payment due dates. You're facing some serious ultimatums here. And I encourage you to create a space where you can reflect, be quiet, go inside, get centered. Allow me to mention this again. In your daily life, you have so much to think about. You have so much to do between work, children, duties, responsibilities. You have to create a moment for yourself. They don't just happen. Moments for yourself just don't evolve by themselves. You have to create it. Creating the sacred space is where you renew your connection with God and your inner self. So here are some ideas for creating a sacred space. Go convert that guest room into a sacred space. If you don't have that many visitors, you can go ahead and create that space into a prayer room, whatever. Recreate a sofa in your living room to be that safe space where it's like self-nourishment. Right? A space that you deem sacred immediately sets the tone for going inward. A lot of people hang beads or like they have billowy curtains, and it emphasizes the importance of solitude. Look, I don't care whether you write, draw, paint, play an instrument in the sacred space. What I care about is that you create that space because it sets the mood for contemplation, for prayer. Some of you are out of your mind because you haven't had a moment to think. You're so busy. Sleep is not where you think. Sleep is where you rest. Rest and sleep are not synonymous. If you need to go buy some flowers to put in your sacred space, go get it. It adds color and it helps with increased oxygen. Go get it. If you need to get some essential oils, I love an oil. I love frankincense. I love myrrh. I love lavender. My favorite is peppermint. I love vanilla. Of course, it opens up the heart. It helps with the balance. It stimulates your health. Okay. Whatever you need to feel at peace and in harmony with the Lord and in harmony with yourself, do it. Put some music on. I'm to the place now where I like music without words. If you just singing and talking too much, I probably can't listen to you all the time because I want to hear my own thoughts. I want to hear my imagination run wild. I want that for you because I see how sacred spaces have shaped my life. I also want to emphasize the importance of setting boundaries, not just for sacred spaces, but for your life. Because isn't your body a temple of the Holy Spirit? That means your whole temple needs to be sacred. You don't need to lack self-confidence or a sense of purpose when it comes to setting boundaries for yourself and your temple, which is a sacred space. You have every right to tell anybody at any time no. You have every right to tell anyone at any time, not today, in 10 minutes, in 10 days. I don't like it. Go sit over there. I'm not coming. I don't like the way you said that to me. You have permission to do it. You need boundaries. Not only can you create a sacred space, but in that space, I want you to think about how holy boundaries are. Even the tabernacle of God had boundaries. People without boundaries are easily persuaded into things they don't want to do because they're acting out of guilt or obligation rather than love. How many people are you connected to out of guilt? Come on, I don't want that for you. And I don't want that for me. I want friends in my life that I love because they're genuine and they make me feel alive, not because I feel bad for them. Who wants a friendship based out of pity? But the truth of the matter is, ladies, some of you have friendships based out of pity. It's time to do some reevaluation about that. When you have healthy boundaries, when you create sacred spaces, you protect yourself from being taken advantage of. Thank God for the Holy Spirit that can aid you in that. When you have healthy boundaries, you own your time. You have high self-esteem. You prioritize your time. You take on responsibilities that you can handle. In other words, you don't overcommit yourself. You authentically say no if you don't have the energy or capacity to do something. You set limits for others healthily without feeling bad. You have a strong sense of identity and direction. You clearly communicate your needs and your wants. You take care of your own problems and understand that you cannot heal other people's issues for them. That's the point of a sacred space. Sometimes you come home depressed and angry because of somebody else's devils that have nothing to do with you. No, in the sacred space, you wash off all the crap from the outside and you hear the Lord and you hear yourself. You make sense of what's going on, and that's how you get direction for the next place. So I want you to take just a few moments here. I want you to reflect with me. What and who is causing you unnecessary stress or discomfort? What do you look forward to each day versus what are the things and places that you dread? Who or what makes you feel like home? Who or what makes you feel at peace? What areas of your life do you feel exhausted by? What, who, and where makes you feel safe, supported, and valued? I want you to ask yourself these questions, and I want you to come up with the space where you were able to answer those questions freely. Wherever that space is, that's probably your sacred space. Run to it daily, multiple times a day. There were moments in my life where I could not wait to get to my room, because in my room I could holler. In my room I could scream. In my room this wig comes off, this bra comes off. I'm putting on ancient mama looking clothes. Okay, I'm not going to do that when my husband get here, because he going to see me look like a snack all the time. But you know what I'm saying. I'm naked and unbothered and unashamed, and I'm just going to be me before the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I'm going to be me in front of my terrible, crazy self, and I'm going to make peace with the stuff I can't control. I'm going to surrender to the will of God, but most of all, I'm going to honor my body. I'm going to honor my mind. I'm going to honor my boundaries. And that's how I'm going to move forward in my life. Y'all, I've really separated myself from people that make me feel uncomfortable, because I don't want to strive in that area of connection and friendship. I don't want to do that. I encounter too many people all day, every day, with a host of issues, and I serve them through love, through a smile, through a quote, through encouragement, whatever, and I love to do it. But when it comes to my life, I just want to feel supported and loved, and I want to support others. But when it starts getting creepy and envy-filled and controlling and weird, I don't want it. I don't want it, and I don't have to have it. I think, listen, if there's no other takeaway that I have learned in the year of 2022, it is, if I don't want it, I don't have to accept it. I learned that in my sacred space. I don't have to accept it. I don't know what your realization for this year is, for the year 2022, but I guarantee you, in your sacred space, you'll find out. At the end of this episode, I want you to make a commitment to finding a sacred space and then going there. Going there, meeting God there, meeting yourself there. And I want you to come back and tell me how your life has changed because of it. I'm having a coaching program that starts in October. It's called Blueprint. It's going to be unlike any other because for the first time, I'm actually soliciting outside help. It's not just going to be me talking and pouring. We're going to get the perspectives of some experts here. And my goal is to help women come up with a blueprint, not just for their business and for their family, but for their mind, for their spiritual life, to create space. That's what I want. I want it all, and I can have it. You can have it. You get a car. You get a car. That's my Oprah Winfrey impersonation. She can give me a car any day of her life, okay? Anyway, I hope that you understand that you can create sacred spaces. You deserve a sacred space. And the revelation that comes from that space is going to be the answer that you're looking for. I do want to thank you for listening to the Hey Sis podcast. Reach out to me on all social media handles, social media platforms, Hey Dr. D, baby. Find me at thedevansgroup.com. And thank you for listening to the Hey Sis podcast. Until next time, see ya.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Hey Sis podcast. Check out www.thedeevans.com for more blogs and motivation.